Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by a contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hey, Ali, I made a small donation on PayPal. My husband and I will be contributing more later, but are in a tough place right now. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. I want to stay anonymous for this video. I will, however, use a fake name to make reading this easier. I'll go by the name Anne. I'm 27, almost 28 years old, and I've been meaning to write out my story to share with your viewers, as I have been no contact for over a year now. But something new has happened, and I need advice, and I suppose a bit of validation and insight regarding the situation. Long story made short, I went no contact over a year ago. I tried to tell my enabling stepfather, covert narcissist, that I plan to go no contact with him and the overt narcissist borderline personality disordered mother, and that as long as he's with her, that I couldn't have a relationship with him. That was before I realized he was a covert narcissist hiding behind my mother's overt outbursts. Before I believed him to be an enabler and a victim to my overt mother's narcissistic abuse. Anyways, he never called me. He never called me when we planned to talk on multiple occasions and stopped responding to my texts. Most of the time prior to this, he would say, she's in the other room, can't talk, because my mother would get grossly jealous of my stepdad and I having any sort of relationship. Back before he became a full-blown covert narcissist, he would play video games with me or read the same books as me to discuss them. But that ended quickly as my mother would rage over it, jealous of our relationship, and of course because she wanted to isolate me and couldn't stand the thought of the two of us against her. She's also probably a little sexually jealous of you. That happens repeatedly. Mothers are in competitions with their daughters. My husband and I moved 2,700 miles away to have some space and peace in September 2015. We got married in early October of 2014. Once we returned from our honeymoon, I went to therapy for my anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with OCD. Through talking about when my OCD was triggered, my psychiatrist mentioned the words malignant narcissist. This was actually describing my mother-in-law. But that day, I did hours and hours of research, the day I found your videos, and realized my mother was a narcissist as well. I told my mother after I realized she was sick that in order for her and I to have a relationship, she needed to go to therapy. For months, she came up with every excuse not to go, and I warned her that if she didn't, I wouldn't be around much longer. Both her and my stepdad were aware of this. By the time April came, I was so tired of the excuses to not go to therapy that I decided just to go no contact. So I changed my phone number in April 2015, but didn't move until September 2015. Before I went no contact, I had told them we had planned on moving, and they knew it would occur near October because our lease was up, but didn't hear from them the whole time. And while they didn't have my number, they did know where I lived, just 20 minutes down the road, and had my husband's phone number. But like I said, they didn't reach out in that time. When they found out that I had moved, it was mid-September, and they found out from our tax lady since we used the same person. I don't know if they ran into her at the store or had gotten some extension on their taxes, but they found out from her. Once they realized we had moved, they started calling family members on both my mom's side and my stepdad's side, but no one gave out my number or a new address. My mother tried to tell my aunt that I must be bipolar, but my aunt knows that the only thing I suffer from is anxiety disorder, OCD, due to all the stress and anxiety my mother has caused me from all the mental, emotional abuse and neglect. So my mother's attempt at starting a smear campaign quickly failed, especially because everyone in our family knows she's fucking crazy. My stepfather, on the other hand, freaked out on his parents and said, "How could you keep this from me?" And his mother said, "She tried to get in contact with you for weeks." He stormed out of the house pissed and hasn't spoken to his mother since. That was in September as well. I haven't heard a word from them since until last month when they heard through the grapevine that I was pregnant. My stepdad texted my husband in passive-aggressive text basically saying and demanding, "Enough is enough, you need to make Ann contact me." Of course, we did not respond to this. Then my biological dad called the next day saying that my stepfather had texted him something to the effect of, "This drama saga with Ann has gone on for long enough. Could really use your help." Then a few days later, I received this email. "Well, Ann, I think this has gone on long enough. I am not really sure why you have chosen to cut all ties with me. Less than 6 months after your wedding, you guys just up and moved out of state to start your life together, but chose not to have me in it at all. I think about you more often than you know. I understand your rift with your mother, who is doing very well, by the way, but I'm not sure how I've wronged you so badly that you don't wish to see or hear from me again. I'll respect your wish if this is what you truly want, but know that I am saddened by it and miss you a ton. I'm hoping that in time we can talk through this and remember that we shared, remember what we shared and hopefully might share again one day. I've recently tried to reach out to Michael too, but he didn't reply to me." Text message. "Hoping you're happy and healthy. Love, Roy." On a side note, he said we moved away less than 6 months after marriage, when in fact it was 11 months. I warned my stepdad that I could not have a relationship with my mother if she didn't get help, and I tried to call him for over a month, trying to explain my plans of going no contact that unfortunately he would be part of since he sides with her and enables her. Though, like I said, I see him now for what he really is, a covert narcissist. And let me tell you, that's exactly what he is. He is exactly like my father. These tactics of changing the history, confusion, coming at you nice and with concern, and notice you dropped in there how well your mother's doing. Let me tell you something. It's all lies. It's all lies and exaggeration, because that's what the covert narcissist does. They lie about everything. They exaggerate about everything. They blow everything out of proportion. On a side note, he said, "I was dumbfounded as to how my stepfather had my email, but only two people could have given it to him: my biological dad or my step grandfather. I asked my dad, and he said no way he would do that. That he respected my wishes to keep my information private. So I knew who to call. To be clear, my step grandmother is 100% on my side. Hasn't spoken to her son since September. Would never betray me, and she sees how destructive her own son is. However, my step grandfather, who I love very much, but I cannot trust since he's a full-blown enabler." So I called up my grandmother, but my grandfather picked up the phone and said, "I assume you're calling about your email that I gave to Roy." And I felt my heart crumble. I did not want to trust him, but it was clear he was on my stepfather's side, and I wish there wasn't any sides. But it's my abusers or me at this point. I spoke to my grandmother and told her I couldn't believe my grandfather had given my email to his son. She was irate. She explained to me how my stepdad showed up unannounced on their front doorstep demanding my phone number and address. And my grandmother answered the door and said no. But my stepdad didn't like that, raised a hand to her, but thought better of it and instead burst past her, storming through the house, saying stuff like, "I will tear this house apart until I find your address." My step grandmother grabbed my phone number and address from her dress book and ran upstairs with it. In the meantime, my grandpa took his granddaughter, who they were babysitting, away and out of sight so she wouldn't witness the commotion. My grandmother ran up the stairs with her son chasing after her. She said that she thought she was going to have to call the police on him. She describes him as red in the face with a look of pure rage. I know the look she is talking about. It's one I have seen many times towards me or my mother when my stepfather felt challenged and wanted his way, but was being denied. It is a scare tactic he uses over and over again to try to intimidate his victims. So at this point, my grandfather came in to calm everything down, and my stepdad convinced him to give him my email after demanding over and over again for my address and phone number. Acting as though as I did this to him, he was claiming he wants to be a grandpa and part of his grandchild's life. And yet he acts that way in front of his niece. I couldn't believe my grandpa saw his son almost hit his mother and charge after her and storm through the house like a lunatic for my information and thought it was safe to give him my email. I know my stepdad cannot get to me, but I shouldn't have to even dread opening my email or spam folders wondering if he's written me. How do you think your stepfather got that way? Picked it up from somewhere. Your step grandfather. That's why he gave it to, because he knew it was all an act and he knew it was all a tactic, one he had used several times. After I heard that story, the fact that this email was so warm and fluffy made my skin crawl. Knowing he was so enraged and would have torn his parents' house apart just to get to me. And then so I'll respect your wish if this is truly what you want. But know that I am saddened by it and miss you a ton. Gives me the creeps and makes my skin crawl. It should, but understand that performance he put on at his parents' house was exactly that, a performance to get his way. That's all it was a performance. This is exactly how this is exactly how my father acts. Exactly. I ignored the email and never responded. That was back in mid-May. I spoke to my grandmother yesterday, and she said my stepdad wrote an email to his father and said, I have collection calls for $20,000 for her student loans. Her husband has an inheritance, they can pay for it. For one, he asked 3 years ago how my husband and I were paying for the wedding, and I said, inheritance. It's gone now. They didn't contribute one dime to our wedding. Our mother didn't even get a card, let alone a gift for my bridal shower, and they didn't give us a card for our wedding. My stepdad just tastelessly talked up to my husband and handed him cash and said, for your honeymoon. Second, the loan he is referring to is the one he took out for me to go to school because my mother refused to help me. I have my own school loans in my name that I have been paying for over 7 years. This loan is not my legal responsibility. Not only that, but he has never mentioned it until now when I have refused to make contact with him. There was never a verbal agreement, let alone a conversation in which suggested that he expected me to contribute to their loan payment. Why he wrote to my grandfather and not to me when he clearly has my email and has my husband's cell phone shows he's trying to get them involved through triangulation in order to get them to think that I'm responsible. Unreasonable and the problem. He's trying to get them to do the dirty work since I won't give him any sort of response. Is still hoping they grow to see me as the bad guy. Another reason why you don't accept anything from the narcissist, because they will turn it around against you. And you got him right. I mean, you got your father's behavior exactly right. That is exactly what he's doing. I don't know much about the law, but I assume they can't make me pay for that student loan since it's not under my name. It's under my stepdad's, and he was the only one that legally had agreed to pay for what started out at $10,000, but accrued interest over the last decade to just under $20,000. But I am scared they will take us to court to try to legally pursue us. I don't know much about situations like this, but I would hope that the law would protect me from having to pay something that isn't my legal responsibility. I'm not sure about that, but if your name's not on it, I don't know. You would have to talk to a lawyer about that one. I mean, if the student loans were in your name, that's one thing. If there was a written agreement that you would pay it back. But I've never heard of a child being forced to pay back parents for college 10 years after the fact. It's all narcissistic bluster. It's all just bluster, I think. When will they give up? That's a rhetorical question. I know the answer is never. If my parents really wanted to be a part of their grandchild's life and were actually concerned about my health as a pregnant mother, then they wouldn't even consider putting this on me or harass our family and my husband and my dad to get to me. But it's not about me. It's about them and hating that they have lost control and they want to punish me for it. Right. And they will never stop trying to punish you. The narcissist never stops trying to punish you. They put themselves into debt and filed for bankruptcy. And the bank was after their house only a few months ago. They did that to themselves, not me. This loan is not mine to deal with. And how they let it go on for years and years without doing anything is on them. Well, if they filed for bankruptcy, the student loan should have been covered under the bankruptcy. And if they didn't cover that under the bankruptcy, it was just to keep you under control then. So that still it's their own fault. I'm so tired of looking over my shoulder and feeling like I'll never be safe or free from them. It's either stick around and get abused, mistreated, taken advantage, and blamed for everything wrong that has occurred in their life, or hide and cower. Always looking over my shoulder and waiting for the other shoe to drop. Thanks, Ollie, for all that you do. You changed my life and the life of many abuse victims. The day I found the video of the recorded audio of your mother, I cried and listened to it over and over again because it proved that I wasn't the only one that had been subjected to such gross mistreatment. I do not take pleasure in the fact that you were verbally abused by your mother in that video, but just knowing I wasn't alone in the world gave me the strength to keep moving forward, to learn more, to heal, to take my life into my own hands. Your strength and your courage to say no to the abuse that you endured and suffered through for years is astounding and admirable. You have the will and will change the course of many lives. What you do is no small feat. It is a pebble in a pond that will have lasting effects for years to come. Thank you for all that you do for me, for all those suffering out there. Sincerely, Anonymous. Well, thank you again for the kind words. I appreciate it. But, you got your story exactly right on your own. Everything you said about your father is absolutely right. And you're always going to have to look over your shoulder as long as he's alive, because he's never going to stop to trying to punish you. If they filed for bankruptcy, then why wasn't the student loan covered? Unless they really didn't file for bankruptcy, or they didn't include it just so they could hold it over your head. Hence, the punishment. Makes no sense. But you have the absolute right reaction to the letter being so calm. That's exactly the type of letter my father would have written. And, and then throwing in there how your mother's doing better. No, she's not. No, she's not. And his behavior proves it. Chasing his mother through the house. Listen, my one piece of advice to you, be careful with those grandparents, especially the one with the grandfather who gave the number. That dude picked up that behavior from somewhere. And it sounds like he picked it up right from your grandfather. Sounds like that is a scene that had been replayed in that house before in the past. And they were just going through the motions so the grandfather could give you the number. So be careful what you say to those grandparents, because they might not be as on your side as you think. But, that's a decision for you to make. So thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. It's a good one. Good luck with your pregnancy. and your child. You know, keep that grandchild away. Keep your child away from those people, because they will try to put the crazy in them. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, if you have some audio or a topic you'd like me to cover, you'd just like to contribute, you know what to do with the PayPal link in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again soon.